Section 1-5 is entitled Solving Inequalities, and we have a whole bunch of properties of inequality. And most of these are very similar to the properties of equality that we did a couple sections ago. The addition property says that if you have an inequality, and an inequality is, A is greater than B or A is less than B, you can add the same thing on both sides of the inequality and it remains the same. So if A is greater than B, then A plus C is greater than B plus C. Same thing for less than. Subtraction is very similar. So you can subtract the same thing on both sides. So if A is greater than B, then A minus C is greater than B minus C. Subtracting C on both sides. Now, where it gets a little tricky is with multiplication and division. So I'm going to multiply both sides of the inequality by the same thing. So in this case, I've multiplied both by C. And as long as C is greater than 0, that is, C is a positive number, then if A is greater than B, then A times C is greater than B times C. And the same thing for less than. That's if C, what you're multiplying by, is a positive number. However, if you're multiplying by a negative number, in this case C is less than 0, that means it's a negative number. If A is greater than B, then A times that negative number C is going to be less than, not greater than, it's going to be less than B times C. So if you're multiplying by a negative number, your greater than becomes a less than, and notice here your less than becomes a greater than. Same thing is going to be true with division. Okay, if I'm dividing both sides by C, and notice in none of these cases is C equal to 0. If C is a positive number, then if A is greater than B, then A divided by C is greater than B divided by C. And the same thing is true for less than. That's if C is a positive number. However, if C is a negative number, then your greater than turns into a less than, and your less than turns into a greater than. If A is greater than B, then A divided by C, where C is a negative number, is going to be less than B divided by C. So to summarize this, you can add or subtract the same number on both sides of an inequality and it remains true. For addition and subtraction, no major difference. However, if you multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality symbol. A less than becomes a greater than, and a greater than becomes a less than. Let's take a look at several examples here. Solve each inequality and then graph it on a number line. Graph the solution on a number line. So 4x minus 3 is less than 5x plus 2. I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides, and that's going to give me an x over here, and subtract 2 on both sides, and that's going to give me a negative 5. Most of the time when we write our inequalities, we want our x on the left side. So if I want an x here and a negative 5 here, this is not the multiplication and division rule. I do have to flip my inequality, but I'm only just rewriting it. I need to have my inequality symbol opening up. See how the bigger part is here, opening up to the x and pointing at the negative 5. So x is greater than negative 5. That's my final answer. And then when I go to graph this on a number line, my negative 5 goes in the middle. I need one number larger and one number smaller. Because this is a less than and not, a greater than and not a greater than or equal to, it's going to be an open circle, and it's greater than, so it's going to be going in the positive direction. And that's as simple as my graph has to be. Here's another example. 12 is greater than or equal to negative 0.3x. So to solve this, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 0.3. And what did I just say? I'm dividing by a negative. Dividing by a negative means I'm going to have to flip my inequality. So this greater than or equal to is going to become a less than or equal to. On this side I'll have my x because the negative 0.3's cancel out. And over here I will have a negative 40. Okay? Now I don't want my inequality to be left like that. I want to have my x on the left hand side. So I need an x over here and a negative 40 over here. My inequality needs to be opening up to the x and pointing at the negative 40. So x is greater than or equal to negative 40. Graphing that on a number line. Negative 40 goes in the middle. Negative 39 is larger, and negative 41 is smaller. Since it's a greater than or equal to, I'm going to do a solid dot and going in the greater than direction. Here's another example. 3x is greater than or equal to negative 4x plus 22 divided by 5. To solve this, I'm going to start by multiplying both sides by 5. Okay. Notice I multiplied by a positive number, so no flipping. So 15x is still greater than or equal to, those guys will cancel out. Negative 4x plus 22. Adding 4x to both sides. Oh, let's see, hold on, wait a minute, let me go back for a minute. I think I copied the original problem wrong here. I did want to have a negative, I'm sorry, let me go back and start this one over. Sorry about that. Because I think in my notes I have copied the problem wrong. I wanted a negative 3x right there. There we go. I'm sorry, let's start this one over. So, same thing is going to apply here. I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. Now, over here, actually I should have left that pink, over here those are going to cancel each other out. But what's going on over here? I have 5 times a negative 3x. Now you might think, since I'm multiplying and it involves a negative 3, a negative number, that I would flip. But I don't, because what I was multiplying by is a positive number. So this is a negative 15x, and I don't flip because I multiplied by a positive 5. Equals negative 4x plus 22. Now, adding 4x to both sides is going to give me a negative 11x is greater than 22. Now, when I divide both sides by a negative 11, that means a flip, because the number that I'm dividing by is a negative number, so x is less than or equal to a negative 2. And graphing that, negative 2, negative 1, negative 3. Since it's a less than or equal to, solid dot, going in the less than direction. Great. And our last example here involves parentheses and the distributive property. So let's get rid of those parentheses first. That's going to give me 24x minus 18 is less than 20x plus 6. I will subtract 20 from both sides, and that'll give me a 4x. And I will add 18 to both sides. That gives me a 24. Dividing both sides by 4, x is less than 6. No multiplication or division by a negative number, so no flipping. There's my final answer. And graphing that, and open circle over the 6 since it's just a less than, and then going in the less than direction.